Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimish Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast, the people it's reaching, the impact it's having, the messages I get on a regular basis, and the people I get to meet. I feel so blessed with this podcast and the impact it has. When I started it, my objective was simple, really to simplify spirituality for people and to guide people on the journey. And I love that this podcast gets to do that. So thank you. So this week's episode is a solo one. Actually wasn't planned to be, and I'll talk a bit more about that. But it's just over the last few weeks, and just the synchronicity of the universe, and just felt called to talk about full circle moments, honoring endings and stepping into new light. It's a bit of a personal journey, but it's connected to I also do a connected meditation. Just felt really appropriate. So in the last joint episode I did with Stacey, which was 299, we talked about doing episode 301 together, and it'll be in person. And that was best laid plans, right? And I just remembered I haven't even introduced myself. I've jumped straight in. But Stacey is the co-host on this podcast. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. What I get to do is to get in a whole people's space as they go through a journey, as they really truly understand their programming and release anything they're holding on to. Guiding people to the light, to truly embrace it. I do that through a beautiful spiritual mentorship program. Also read Akashic records. So if anything, any of that appeals, and my voice resonates, anything from this podcast resonates, reach out, book a free discovery call. I can take you through the mentorship program, or book an Akashic record reading. As I was saying, we had plans for this episode. So if you're a regular listener, thank you. Thank you for supporting the podcast. If you're new, welcome. But if you're a regular listener, you'll know that I do one episode a week with me and Stacey. It's normally the Monday episode. The Thursday episode is normally with a guest. So I was visiting the US recently, and I'll talk about that. And during that visit, I went to see Stacey, spent a few days together, and we thought we'd record an episode together. That was the best laid plans. But I guess the universe had other plans, right? Because the Airbnb we were in, where we were staying, just there wasn't really an appropriate place. It was an appropriate place for us to work because we were working there too. But there wasn't a good place to record a podcast. And I decided that the best thing and the message probably was that this episode should be a solo one. So welcome to the episode 301. It's like a new milestone. I'm also recording this for full disclosure. I'm actually recording this the night before, the morning before. It's actually 2 a.m. in the UK. The morning before I release this, I'm going to record it and release it straight away. And the reason I wanted to do that is today's Diwali, as you may call it, or Diwali, as if you're the Hindu faith. But it doesn't matter what faith you're in. It's a festival of light. It's a metaphor for new beginnings. It's a metaphor for overcoming darkness. And I thought, you know what? Episode 301, recorded in that energy of all that love. It's a beautiful, beautiful time to record it. And I just thought, you know what? Let's do it. So I chose to record it the night before. I normally only do that for Akashic messages. But I chose to record it the night before to release in the morning. And this whole episode was really about closing cycles and allowing for new beginnings. So as I say, today, Monday, is Diwali, actually Sunday. I know it's past midnight, but we call it Gari Jodas, which means the darkest night. And that kind of feels appropriate too, right, for the current energy. So that kind of gives you some of the background. So, if you were expecting me and Stacey, you've got me. Hopefully you don't mind that. But, during this recent trip, I went to the US. Ironically, for those that have been regular listeners, you know that I spent 25 years in the corporate space. I only left a couple of years ago. When I was in that corporate space, I'd spent a lot of time in Raleigh, North Carolina, in the US. And actually, for a period, I went there for once a month. So it was definitely a regular place. So going back on this recent trip was for me an interesting in it because I'm different now, right? I'm not in that corporate space and my energy is different. I've always been spiritual, so I don't actually feel that a lot of people who met me there would say I'm that different, maybe. Um, but for me, it was an interesting journey, kind of like a closing of a cycle, which is where this episode came from. It was a beautiful trip. I mean, I went there for a a very special friend's wedding. Was very grateful to be part of that, and it was a beautiful, beautiful occasion. And that I was there in Raleigh for a week, and I knew I was going to meet a lot of people at the wedding, but I also wanted to take time out for those people I spent so much time with. So I had a lot of dinners at people's houses, a lot of lunches, and it was lots of loving conversations. So it was really, it was really good to. I mean, that was a big part of my corporate life was the people. There's a lot of good people, but it was the closing of a cycle. I was going back to a place where I ended that cycle. I was going back to a place where, for the last few years, certainly, I was doing something where I didn't feel like I belonged. And for me, it did feel the end, a closing of a cycle. And the reason I'm sharing that is I feel like a lot of us are closing cycles. So I'm hoping that, kind of when I share, it gives you an opportunity to step back and maybe realize that you've been closing cycles too. I got to meet lots of great people and it was a really, really good time. But at the same time, I realized that the decision I made to leave corporate was the best decision I ever made. Feeling both familiar and strange, being there in a different version of myself. And, yes, I've gone through a couple of rebirths since then. But I found myself still I remember going back and when I met these people before, I was still having spiritual conversations. Maybe I was deeper, maybe I wasn't. I just felt like my energy, my vibration was needed in different spaces. And I found myself certainly at the wedding and other times just stopping and looking around and just appreciating the magic. There's sometimes we've got to be human, right? On this spiritual journey, we spend so much time, self-care, on doing spiritual activities, and for me, a lot of the client work, but it's also good to be human, right? We're a soul having a human experience. So that week, during the wedding and other times, I got to be human. And honestly, the last few weeks, I probably spent more time with being human than I have in a little while. But I'm also still spiritual, right? Some of the conversations I had were still deep. And I remember during the wedding, and actually during the wedding, so many people asked me about the podcast. So it's just really crazy. But even during one of the wedding, one of my friends asked me, she's like, "Are you going to record a podcast about this experience?" I was like, that's interesting. Sure, I'll include it, right? But this is the thing, right? This is what I wanted to talk to you about: is closing cycles, is appreciating your journey, but also letting go of who you were. So I guess at this time, I'll ask you, what are you holding on to? What are you ready to let go of? What experiences have you had recently that it's time to realize and embrace that you closed that cycle and you're in a new cycle? It was such an interesting trip. During that trip, it was also the 5-year anniversary of this podcast. So isn't that interesting, right? I was there closing out a cycle in an old world of mine in the corporate space, not regretting anything because I know I've made the right decision. I'm doing what I love. Interesting enough, I mean, if you listen to Thursday's episode, I kind of do get a feeling that maybe at some point I've got to go back in the corporate world and heal the corporate world from within. That doesn't mean it by any means I want to take a role in corporate. But what it means is that I may need to create some material, I may need to create some training courses that helps the corporate world heal from within. So that's really what Thursday's episode was about. I just got the interesting feeling, right? I mean, the fact that I was going to Raleigh, the fact that two of my most amazing clients are got made redundant in the corporate world and now, quite keen on creating healing businesses. So it was just a lot of synchronicities and a lot of messages, and I'm just open to whatever that may look like. So, but really, my message to you today is: what are you closing out? Then following on from that, I left Raleigh and I spent a few days in Maryland with Stacey. So, and Stacey's been such a big part of the spiritual journey. We accelerated this podcast together. She joined from episode 17. We also created the mentorship program together. She recorded her book in while she was visiting here in the kitchen that I normally record, and so lots of pivotal moments. And again, even visiting Stacey, in a space I visited a couple of times, but again, it felt like a closing of a cycle, because there's lots of new beginnings here, right? Lots of you guys have heard Stacey talk about her plans to move to the UK, etc. So just like just lots of things closing out, lots of things beginning. It's just an interesting time, and I'm really hoping you as a listener can relate. And maybe you're a different part of your journey. Maybe you are at the dark night stage. Maybe you're going through something that is really expanding you. My reminder to you is that the universe is never, you guys are never going to give you anything you can't handle. And this too is a phase. Everything you're going through is teaching you something. So if you are in a dark phase, then ask yourself, what are you here? What are you learning from this phase? What do you need to release? What are you holding on to? Because it is a phase and you'll get through it. Because I feel like we are entering into a new age, which is why this episode felt so appropriate for now. And the Diwali, everything was just adding to just beginning of new cycles, closing of old ones, etc. And just other examples. I mean, 19th, I know it's now officially Monday in the UK, but 19th was the 17-year anniversary of my mum leaving this realm. Again, she's had such a big impact to me. I was like, wow, isn't that interesting? Just, and just lots of interesting things. I mean, my just over the last couple of days, 2 family members have lost relatives, really close relatives, right? My sister lost, well, I shouldn't say lost. One of my sister-in-law left this realm. And one of my brother-in-laws also left this realm. It's just an interesting time. A lot of people leaving this realm. I do feel like the next 12 months, we're going to experience so much intensity. And it is going to mean a lot of people leave this realm. And I'm not it's just a feeling. I'm not scaremongering. I'm not, just a feeling that I get. Like I said, what synchronicities in your life? What are you maybe holding on to? What are the things that have happened recently that maybe you can look at differently? Maybe if you look at it in a different light, or ask yourself that question, how is it serving me? Maybe you start to see it different. What identity are you ready to release? Are you ready to activate the healer in you? Can you use this energy? It's also new moon on Tuesday, Tuesday the 21st. New moon is all about new beginnings and manifesting new beginnings. So even if you're not celebrating Diwali, it's still a new moon. It doesn't matter. It's a vibration. Embrace this energy and the vibration, new beginnings, and closing out cycles. A lot of time I talk about soul contracts coming to an end, closing out cycles, and what does that really mean? This is what it means. It means you letting go of an old version of you, allowing the new version of you to be born. And this, the phase we're in right now, you don't know what the new version of you is like. You don't know what he or she is going to be excited about. And what if that excites you? What if it's exciting to get to a new version of you and not knowing everything or whatever's coming next? Because the human in us wants to know, right? The human in us wants to really know what's coming next. But what if we're not meant to know? What if the universe, our guides, can only give us a glimpse of what's coming? I feel the next 12 months are going to be things are going to change so much that we're not going to recognize the world anymore. And I feel like we're all going to get a choice whether we ascend, whatever you want to call it. There's so many human terms for it. Move to the fifth dimension, from the third dimension, ascension, rebirth, whatever you want to call it. It's all human words. But for me, we all have a choice to evolve into a new version of ourselves. And honestly, some people still be stuck in the human realm, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong. We're not here to push anybody to make a decision. We're here to give people an option that they do have an option. To set an example that maybe lead people to expand, to ascend, whatever you want to call it. So your responsibility is to shine your light as brightly as you can, to be the example, to force people to change. Sometimes it's frustrating, right? You want your loved ones to truly understand and have the same interpretation of what's coming, to have the same awareness and to embrace it. But not everyone's going to be the same. We're a soul having a unique experience. Every human experience we're having is unique to us. So who are we to force anyone to make a decision? But who we are is we have a responsibility to shine our light, to truly embrace this journey and set an example and inspire others to join. Not force. Because everybody has free will. So this is the energy, and this is the point of this podcast, is for you to really embrace what's new in you, what inspires you, what are you closing out? Are you holding on to soul contracts where you're done? What is a soul contract? A soul contract is where you ask another soul to teach you something, to expand you, to maybe expand you, and sometimes that expansion involves pain. But what we do is we hold on to soul contracts, and even after they've expired, even after we've learned everything, and that's where suffering begins. So ask yourself, what are you closing out? What are you holding on to? Who are the souls that you need to let go of? And what are you opening up new in you? What inspires you? Maybe you're ready to activate the healer in you. Maybe you're ready to accept that your hands are healing. Maybe your voice is important. This really is a time for you. Maybe the time is a little different. I mean, like I said, me just felt like so many conversations, so many interesting conversations. Even, first week I was fine. Second week I got a cold, aka man flu, right? It's just like, really intense, but it's okay. It's my body going through a shift, right? As you go through an upgrade, a lot of the times the last thing that goes to the upgrade is your physical body, because your body is the vehicle for your soul, but it still needs to go through an upgrade. But the human, the ego, sometimes is resisting, and that's why sometimes it's the last thing that goes through an upgrade. So again, I repeat, what are you closing out? And even it's crazy, right? 5 years for this podcast, I had no idea where it was going to go. When I started this podcast 5 years ago, inspired by my mentor, my friend, Cedric Jeffrey, who left this realm in March 2020. And she died in a fire, aged only 30 years old. If you haven't heard the story, then I talk a lot about it in previous episodes. But she's exactly where she's meant to be. She's, and she's the one that pushed me to learn how to read Akashic Records as a mentor. I wanted to understand my journey with her, and she's now a spiritual guide. She pushes me, she guides me on the other realms, and I do the work here. So I understand my journey with her, and the Akashic Records helped me to do that. And when I learned how to read the Akashic Records, I got the message in my voice, my gift, which is when I started this podcast. And it was a passion project. I do maybe an episode a month at the beginning. If you've listened to the beginning episodes, you'll recognize they're shorter. And my intention was really to just spread whatever wisdom I have. And honestly, I don't claim any of the wisdom on my own, because everything's channeled. I don't script any episodes. Whatever comes through, and none of it's mine. Even when I quote from the human side, I'm probably quoting somebody else, right? And a lot of the information I channel. So it's not coming from the human, it's coming from somewhere else. So again, 5 years of the podcast just feels like another cycle closing. It's like the podcast has been such a big part. By the way, I'm going to carry on, right? It's not, I love doing this podcast. So 2 episodes a week. I have no plans of changing. If anyone has any ideas of what I could add, what I could change, then please do reach out. But really, my message to you is, how are you moving through the endings and the beginnings? How are you recognizing when the chapter is complete? How are you allowing yourself to step into the new without clinging on to the old? I talk about it in this podcast too. I love, I'm not telling you to do this, do it if you feel inspired, but I love going to a graveyard, and actually I probably need to do that. I haven't done it in a while. And just allowing the old version of myself to be released. Graveyard's such a beautiful place to do it. Why is people fearful of maybe movies and stuff? But graveyards are, there's no emotion there. I mean, unless obviously there's a funeral going there, but there's just, it's such a peaceful place. I remember Sidra used to love graveyards. She used to spend nights there, and I remember visiting my family. She wanted to get to know them because we were working together, and she told them, she kept talking about how much she loves graveyards, how much she loved talking to the dead more than the living. I think my family were a bit wondering who this lady was, right? But that's so her. She was being herself, and maybe pushing my family to look at things a little differently. Who knows? But this is a beautiful time. This is a reminder that your soul chose to be here. Your soul chose to be here. Your soul is needed. Your soul is wanted. You are here to do something that's never been done on the planet before, which is why you don't feel like you belong. So maybe it's time for you to really hear those words. And actually, if you listen to this and thinking, well, he's not really talking to me, he's talking to somebody else, I will say, actually, I am 100% talking to you. You are needed. You're here to do something, and which is why you don't feel like you belong. You feel like you're an alien in your own body. And, if any of this resonates, then it means you're going through a shift and you're here to do something that's never been done before. Stop trying to fit in. Embrace your difference. Embrace who you are. This is your time. Excuse me for my cough, but really don't excuse me. Sorry, not sorry, right? My physical body is going through a shift too. Just an interesting, exciting time. And like I said, I intend to include a meditation, which is really about closing cycles and beginning new ones. Again, I have no idea where they're going to take me. I just go on, I let them go and take me on a journey, or whatever that journey is where I'll take you on the meditation. The other thing I did want to talk about, I'll talk about it a little bit, is the membership circle I want to start. And I think I mentioned it briefly here before, but excuse me again. But I'll talk a little bit more about it. And this is my way of, again, kind of making me more accessible. I'll talk about what that looks like. But before I go there, I actually wanted to, and maybe this is a new segment I'll include moving forward, but I actually got a question from a guest, from a listener, and I wanted to just talk about it. I thought, well, you know what? Getting your questions are great. I may actually do a full episode on it at some point soon, but it's a question I get asked a lot. And it's, I won't include the full words, but basically it's, why does our soul pick so much pain? And this particular question was, why do my loved ones need to go through so much pain? Why have they been through so much pain? It related to stepchildren and kind of what, but it doesn't. But the question relates to everybody, right? Our soul, if you've been through something traumatic, if you've been through something painful, you've experienced abuse, and you have someone like me coming along and saying, well, actually, your soul chose this. You probably think I'm crazy, right? And I know I've had this conversation with so many people. Why would our soul pick this? And the reality is, we have karma to release in this lifetime. We have so much karma that it's personal and ancestral. Our ancestors have done so much. Who decides what's good or bad? But this closing of cycles is also including karmic cycles, which include pain. Does it make it easy? No. My role here is to make you aware. Accepting this is what your soul chose is really your journey. Through the mentorship and other things, I help you and guide you to accept. But this is in reality what your soul chose. It doesn't mean the human agrees. Why would the human agree to go through something painful, especially traumatic, something that shaped you? But here's the thing, here's again, this is just my perspective, but your soul knew that you had to release so many karmic cycles. And for many of you, you're leading your family line, so you chose to heal a lot ancestrally. So if you listen to this and you feel like you're the black sheep of the family or the one that kind of taken the most, and you have to understand that ancestrally you had a lot to release, as well as maybe perhaps personally. And the other thing is that, when the soul cycles through different lives, it also decides what areas it wants to expand. So really, two main reasons when you go through so much in life, it's one, what karma you're here to release, and two, kind of what does your soul want to experience? How does it want to expand? And I actually believe everything we've been through, the karma we're releasing, the expansion the soul needs to go through. What if that's part of our training? What if that's part of our training? What if we're meant to use that experience to guide others, to inspire others? What if there's a deeper reason you've been through everything? And there is a process, right? It's like a grieving process to go through how we deal with trauma. For me, any spiritual expansion, first thing is always awareness. Becoming aware that everything you've been through is here to teach you something, expanded you. And that only comes by changing your question. How is it expanding me? What did it teach me? And remember, everything's a co-creation. So somebody you love has been through something, then you also got to understand there's a lesson there for you based on what they've been through. Maybe you're meant to hold their space. Love them. But always remember, nobody needs fixing. Wherever we are is perfect in this moment. I'm not saying you don't have healing to do. I'm not saying this still not work. What I'm saying is you have to accept this version of you. You have to love this version of you. And know that you are perfect in this moment. Accept this version of you, and then that allows you to fall in love with this version of you and continue to expand. You're healing whatever trauma you've been through. It's healing you. It's expanding you. And, always remember your blood family, actually including step family, I believe you pick to expand you, not always to love you. This is the thing, right? Sometimes we believe our blood family is here and they should love us. That's our programming. Who says that your mom and dad should love you? Your brother, sister. They're definitely here to expand you, but not always to love you, and that's hard. But you can pick your soul family, which is maybe where step family comes in, or friend circle, whatever, where your soul family are here to love you. Maybe that's where you get the love of a mother, the love of a father, brother, sister, from your divine father. So I'm kind of going off topic, but ultimately it's realizing you're a soul having a human experience. And you're not here to stop other people's pain. So if people in your life have had painful experiences, no, that's what their soul contracted them to experience. And they've had to release karma from it. And there is a lesson there for them. And what if that lesson is to guide others? No two people's stories are the same, but there is empathy there, right? There is connection. There is some form of understanding. And really, ultimately, what I feel we're all here to do is hold space. And, a lot about being mentoring. Being a mentor is about holding space. I'm not here to fix people. I don't ever tell anybody what to do, but I hold that space. I guide them to truly understand themselves at a deeper level. Because if you tell somebody what to do, they may integrate it, they may not. But if you guide people to change their questions and to get a deeper understanding of who they are, their awareness increases, and from there, they can then increase their acceptance. And without awareness and acceptance, it's really hard to move on. So I hope that answered the question. I mean, I feel like I went off a little tangent, but everything's connected, right? And if you have a question, you want me to answer it in this sort of way, then please do send it through. Like I said, I'll probably do a deeper episode on this topic at some point soon. I feel like we've done it before a few times, but I feel like it's probably time to do it again. But I'll come back on, and everything's connected, right? I'm not saying this wasn't connected, but going back to the main topic of this, of closing cycles, I feel like I'm stepping into a new chapter. My deal with my guides is I'm going to keep showing up. Wherever you send me, wherever I'm meant to go, I'm going to show up. Whoever I'm meant to meet, I'm going to show up. I'm going to embrace it. I don't fully know what my future holds. I know I've made this decision to be a healer and to really expand the world. But what does it hold? Who knows? I'm open to it. Like I said, I'm starting a membership circle, the Spiritual Journey membership. And what I realized is a lot of people love the podcast, and the Akashic messages I do on a monthly basis, but there's always kind of a step between the podcast and booking an Akashic record reading or mentorship. So I wanted to create something in the middle, which was sacred, like the podcast, and I'm still going to do the monthly full moon webinar, which is my way of giving back. I hold an in-person meditation circle here in my home. I'm still going to carry on doing those type of things. But I wanted to do something more regular with anyone that wanted to sign up. It'd be a sacred, safe space. It's going to include things like monthly live calls, Zoom calls which are recorded, with energy updates, teaching, meditations, Q&A, more of my vibration, more of my energy if it appeals. I'll also, create a private group, probably on WhatsApp, but whatever works. But I'll provide bi-weekly energy updates. I'll have a monthly exclusive guided meditation for this group. Really, it's a safe, intimate space. It's a spiritual community to grow, to learn, and to connect with each other. In many ways, I'll be holding space, and I want people within the community to connect too, right? So if this is something that appeals, I'm going to start it on November 11th, so 11/11. It felt like a magical day to start it. So the first call will be on the 11/11. It's going to be a price of $44 a month or £33. I do have an intro price. So if you want to be a founding member with this intro price, it's going to be $29 or £21 a month. Again, I'll keep that for 12 months, and then who knows? But that will go up if you join afterwards to $44 or £33. If this is something that interests you, then let me know. I'll include a link for more detail in the show notes, also links to pay. I'm excited. This is another way of me connecting with you guys and building a bridge, and it feels important. I was kind of guided to do it, and so yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. Like I said, I'm going to continue doing the full moon webinar. I do that once a month. Normally with Stacey, she could make the last one, but it's a free 90-minute healing. Around the full moon, we open the group Akashic Records. We share a group message. I also take you through guided meditation in that session too. The next one is going to be on September the 5th at 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. UK. Again, I include the link to join in the show notes. So there's a lot of things going on. I'm trying to really kind of build something and make myself more accessible in different ways. I love the mentorship. I love the one-to-one work I get to do, but I also realize I've got to scale. So this is me trying to really do what I'm here to do. I'm here to guide you, and if my voice resonates, then reach out. Maybe join the the membership, the Spiritual Journey membership. Definitely join the Full Moon webinar. It's free. It's just you can join once a month. But I go full cycle. I ask you, what are you closing out? What are you ready to embrace? How are you going to shine your light? How are you going to make yourself more accessible? Where are you speaking your truth? Do you have people around you that hold your space? Lovingly, they expand you. And I remind you that you're needed, you're wanted, and you're very, very much loved. And the question is, are you ready to embrace that love? Are you ready to be loved by the universe? Sending you the biggest hug and so much love and light. And I truly hope this episode inspired you to shine your light differently and shine it so bright. And please do give me feedback. I don't do a lot of solo episodes, so any topics you want me to cover, anything you want me to go deeper on, let me know. I'm sending everyone so much love and light and the biggest hug. Sending you so much love. Bye for now.